I have come to the profound revelation that in these videos my facial expressions look very flat. So it makes it sound like I'm not actually excited about something. I assure you I am. It's just what my face looks like. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Milo, and we will be going through all of the books I read in May. I read 12 books in May, which is more than I thought I would. The first book I read in May was Horrible History's Terrible Trenches, which is basically a World Book Day book, obviously, because it says so on there. That is all about the trenches during World War One. It rehashed a lot of the stuff that was said in Horrible Histories, the frightful First World War. So there wasn't really anything necessarily new about this, but I did appreciate that Terry Deary didn't just focus on just the English side, but also the German side of the war as well. Since this was basically just a rehash of the frightful First World War book, and it is like less than 100 pages, I rated this 3 stars. And so the next book I read was Something Spectacular by Alexis Hall, and this is the sequel to Something Fabulous? Yes, Something Fabulous, which follows Peggy and Orfeo. Don't necessarily need to read Something Fabulous to read Something Spectacular, since it follows different characters, and I'm pretty sure this is technically an interconnected scenario, but I would highly suggest Something Fabulous, as I did enjoy that one more than Something Spectacular. But anyway, Orfeo, this is a historical romance, and Orfeo is a soprano? A soprano opera singer. If you're not aware, a soprano, it was originally, I think, a church thing where you would get a male, well, in church they would cut off boys' genitals to make sure that they still had a higher singing voice, which is what happened to Orfeo. Both of these, I think this would technically count as a sapphic romance, since neither of the main characters are male, but neither of them are female either, if you can't tell. So Peggy was in the first book, and she's trying to get over her feelings for a character called Arabella, who was the sister of one of the main characters in the first book, and then she gets roped into a convoluted scheme which leads her to Orfeo. She's literally so overwhelmed by their performance and ends up fainting, and then it goes on from there. Honestly, I wanted to like this more than I did. It was still good, but honestly it felt a little too much like instant attraction and instant feelings for me. Like it didn't really feel like they spent enough time together for them to like feel this romantically inclined towards each other. I mean, it was still very sweet, and this is a very mature book, so be warned going into this. But overall I did rate this a 3.5 stars, and I will be picking up the third one whenever I can find it. But again, for now I still prefer the first one. The book I read after that was the Bro-posal by Sonora Reyes. which is about Kenny and Alejandro, or Han, where basically Han is an illegal immigrant, and so because of that, Kenny proposes, pun not intended, that they get married so that he can get citizenship. And that's a very basic summary of the plot, but that's basically all you need to know. So obviously the tropes in this are friends to lovers, but also fake engagement / marriage, though the marriage doesn't happen until the later part of the book. So Kenny is bisexual and has just gotten out of a very toxic relationship. You will hate his ex-girlfriend. She's the worst. And Alejandro is straight and is only doing this for the citizenship, and they originally planned to get divorced in like 3 or 4 years after they get married. I really enjoyed this and found it very cute. I think also there's the fun part is that Alejandro is autistic, but they only mention the fact he's autistic once, and I think they portray his autism fairly well, but evidently I'm not an expert in autism, so that could be a wrong assessment, but I personally think that they did portray his autism very sweetly, and I rated this 4.5 stars. The next book I read was Horrible Histories, The Woeful Second World War by Terry Deary, which is obviously a children's history book about World War II. There's not really anything more to say about that. I rated this 3 stars. And then after that I read The Blitzed Brits by Terry The Horrible History of the Blitz Brits by Terry Deary, but this goes more in depth about the Blitz in London and a little bit in Germany, because obviously the English were bombing Berlin as well as the Germans bombing us. So yeah, that's interesting, and I rated this 3 stars. And then after that, and since I picked up Wild Like Me by Louise Pentland after really enjoying what's it called? Time After Time. This was her first non-fiction. No, this is her first fiction book. I think her first book, and I really enjoyed it. This was published in 2017, and it does show it slightly. So this is about Robin Wilde, who is a single mum and is just trying to get her lease back in life. She's dedicated basically the entirety of the last 4 years? I can't remember how old. Yeah, after the last 4 years of dedicating basically her life to her daughter, she's trying to get her second lease of life. No, I've said that already. By like going out on dates again and just finding herself and like really enjoying her work. And it's a very contemporary, again set in 2017, and is very sweet. I really like Louise's writing style, and will be at some point or another looking for the second book in this series, because I really enjoyed Robin as a character. I think her daughter, that I can't remember the name of, oh god, what's right, focusing the last 4 years on her being a single mum to her daughter Lila after her fiance separated from her when Lila was 2. And this is definitely not everyone's cup of tea, because it is very contemporary, and obviously there's a lot of talk, and it's set very heavily in 2017. I think Lila was written really well, which makes sense since Louise obviously does have 2 daughters in real life, though I don't think Pearl was born when this was published. Please correct me if I'm wrong. One thing I did really find interesting is the fact that at one point or another she's shopping with one of her friends, and mentions how she usually throws everything into a tote bag, and then this friend looks at her with, like, I don't know, a scowl or something like that. It's not necessarily, the expression's not necessarily described, and I read this earlier in the month, so I don't remember it fully. But I find that really interesting, like the juxtaposition. I don't know if that's even the right word for it, but like the difference of how nowadays everyone has a tote bag, and it'd be weird. And I just find it interesting how that's changed over the last 8 years. Jesus Christ. Has it been 8 years? Yeah, 8 years. Whoa. But yeah, I rated this 4 stars, and I would definitely recommend it for if you're interested in contemporary just stories in general. Contemporary fiction. As contemporary, I suppose 2017 is technically in the past. One day that'll be historical fiction. I think something that's also really good about it is that it portrays motherhood in a very realistic way. I mean, obviously I've never had children, so I won't know the specifics of it, but to me it does feel like a very realistic portrayal of motherhood. But again, never had children, so you might disagree if you have had children. Anyway, the next books I read after that is my monthly rereads of The Amazing Book Is Not on Fire and Dan and Phil Go Outside. And I did listen to Tabanoff as an audiobook, so if you give me a second, I need to go get the colouring book because I forgot to get it. If you're confused as to why I just got up to get a colouring book, it's because a lot of the time when I listen to an audiobook, especially audiobooks of Tabanoff's audiobook, I will colour while listening to it. And for Tabanoff, I did this one, and I always colour in a character. Daisy! Sorry about that, as I was saying, I like to colour a superhero in this colouring book a different pride flag, and to this month I coloured this character in the colours of the asexual flag. Also this month I also reread a different book, which is not something that I do often. I'll be honest, I wasn't doing great this month mentally. I won't go into it because frankly you're all strangers and this is about books, not my mental health. But what does a fanny do when they're not doing well mentally and they have access to it? They read You Will Get Through This Night by Daniel Howell, and so that's what I did. I reread this in audiobook form and tabbed some stuff. And this is still 5 stars. I still really enjoyed it, and I need to remember to use it more because it is obviously a very useful tool. But anyway, after that, I read one of my most anticipated reads for this year, and frankly there was only 3 books, which was For Whom the Bell Tolls by J.C. Lynn. I always forget her last name, which is weird because it's literally only 4 letters. For those of you who aren't aware, this is a prequel book to her TikTok series Hell's Bells, and I have been waiting for this forever. It was originally on AO3 before being taken down and obviously published. I really enjoyed this. This dictates what happened before the series again, obviously, because it's a prequel and it's about Lily from the point of when she dies. Because if you're not aware, Hell's Bells takes place in the afterlife, specifically Hell, and basically the main character Lily dies of cancer, which that's not a spoiler because it's literally the first sentence is Lily knew the cancer was going to kill her when her car wouldn't start. And it does say that Lily isn't exactly thrilled with her arrival in the afterlife. So it's not a secret that she's dead, especially considering obviously the TikTok series is set in hell. So this is basically detailing Lily's first time experience in hell, setting up what she calls the help desk, and then meeting her future lover Beleth, or Belle. Stop. And eventually meeting her adoptive daughter Sharky. And then it leads directly into the events of the start of the series. You don't have to have watched the series to read this. And in all honesty, a part of me wishes that I didn't know anything about the series beforehand, because one of the main tensions for the book wasn't necessarily that tensiony, that's not a word, but you know what I mean for me, because obviously I'd watched the series, so I knew what would happen eventually. And eventually this is the start of presumably the novelization of the entirety of the series, because it does say Hell's Bells Book 1. So this is fun. I will put a link to both her TikTok and her YouTube in the description if you want to watch the series for yourself and get a grasp of the characters. And currently she's uploading compilations of the series onto her YouTube channel slowly, so you can get reintroduced to it always. And then the main series is produced and uploaded onto TikTok, where you can just watch the whole thing. And I rated this 4.5 stars. I did really enjoy it, though I won't lie, it was a little hard to get through, not because of the book, but because, as aforementioned, I wasn't doing great this month. So, after that, I picked up, as you would have seen in the reading vlog that came out before this, I picked up Dracula by Bram Stoker. Which I don't generally think needs any introduction, but if you're not aware, it is about, not actually about Dracula, I mean, he's in it, but it's about these group of people who've become aware of Dracula. One of their friends ends up dying / turning into a vampire, and then they try to stop him. This was honestly very disappointing, because Dracula is barely in it. I know he's supposed to be this looming of the force for the characters, but he wasn't really that intimidating to me, even though, you know, I don't know, there wasn't really any saving grace necessarily to this, which is unfortunate, because I did really want to enjoy this. The main reason I picked this up is because I was reorganizing my bookshelf and there was no room for this anymore, and considering it's not actually my book, it's my dad's, I figured I'll just read it so I can give it back to him, which I didn't mention in the reading vlog, so you can still watch it. I'll link that in. I'll link the playlist for my book, the book bucket list playlist in the description, because for those of you not aware, I'll take a book off of the 100 book bucket list and then just read it for generally a spoiler reading vlog, though I've only done 2, and technically 3, because there was a Lord of the Flies and my name picks the books I read, the video as well. But yeah, as I mentioned in that reading vlog, this is 3 stars. And since I also listened to the Dracula in Dracula as an audiobook, I did also do some colouring towards the end with the same thing. So this is the gender fluid flag. I honestly slightly disappointed with this one. I wish I did more, but overall I'm not necessarily too bad with it, mainly because of these details, though it is, I suppose, a bit gory for a children's colouring book. I don't really care. Then the last book I read, mainly because it was the last day of May when I finished it, and I knew I'd be able to finish this in one day. Well, I mean, I was halfway through the day when I finished this. I was actually out shopping when I finished it, but not fun. I was the Horrible Histories Horribly Hilarious Joke Book, which is a collection of jokes from the Horrible History series, from I think the Savage Stone Age to the woeful Second World War, which, you know, just standard joke book, nothing necessarily that spectacular about it. And so I rated this 3 stars. And so that is everything I read. In May. Oh, that really hurt my things. Ugh. Shocker. Hard books. Hardbacks. Hard to carry. Okay, so now, reading journal. I am now on the 3rd shelf for my reading goal bookshelf. And then I've gone ahead and I've ticked the second one. I've moved on to a new coloured pen because my highlighter coloured one ran out, and I've obviously ticked the 4 more Horrible History books I've read here. I don't know if you can tell, but I have actually added another box because I did get another Horrible Histories book. And then I've added how many books I've read here. I've had 0 DNFs this month, as far as I remember. I'm pretty sure. I don't think I've done that. And then I've added, obviously I started the Wild Like Me trilogy. I don't know if there's a specific name for it, so I've added that. I've also added this series because I didn't know that there was more than 2 books. There's apparently 4. I have actually bought the 3rd one, so hopefully that'll be in next month's reading wrap up. And then I also added this for the Ever After High series, which ironically I've only read the last book in this series. I want to just put in here that there are actually 5 books in this series, because this book, Once Upon a Time, is a prequel. There are 4 main books in this series, and then the prequel one is considered book 0. So I have just quickly fixed that, and then I've only read the 5th book, which is considered the 4th, which is annoying, but what can you do? But I have got the 1st and 3rd book in this series, so hopefully we'll be reading that next month as well. And then finally, or just appreciate the May spread again, I did. Here are all of the books I read this month. And then I've put what I put for my review of Food the Beltors, which, if you can't read it, is I hope the afterlife is actually like this, because it's honestly sounds really good. And then I did this for June. I didn't realize that the word June wasn't in the center when I wrote it, so the rainbow, the whole circle rainbow, is off to the side slightly. Oh well. Then obviously I've done rainbows because June is the start of Pride Month. So yeah, that basically covers everything, and yeah, stay tuned for hopefully more videos. Unfortunately, probably won't get round to starting the Percy Jackson series anytime soon. I was a little too fast, I guess, too optimistic with that at the end of last month, mainly because I ended up buying a lot more books this month, which, oh well, it happens. But eventually that will come, and eventually I will do the Iliad as a 100 book reading, a 100 book bucket list video reading vlog as well. But until then, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye!